On this episode of MythBusters,
Just boom!
Adam and Jamie launch a prolonged assault
That was awesome!
on a devilishly difficult weaponry myth,
That is amazing!
That's what I'm talking about.
finding out if 13th century Syrians
She's hungry for some boat, aren't you, girl?
created the world's first rocket-powered torpedo.
I don't know, maybe that was a little too powerful. What do you think?
Meanwhile, Carrie, Grant, and Tori are feeling the pressure
It's really strange having a job doing things that your parents told you never to do.
as they pop the cork on a vino myth. Can a blaze in a wine bottle truck really turn into a cork-firing machine gun?
This is why we can never have anything nice.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
Here we go. That's 100% wacky right there.
and Jamie Heineman.
Relax. This one hurt a bit.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Joining them, Tori Belleci,
This is real science.
Carrie Byron,
Let's do it.
and Grant Imahara.
He's alive!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Dude, we have got a historical weaponry myth that is actually older than you. Okay, check it out. It turns out that the torpedo might have been invented in Syria in the 13th century.
Really?
Well, okay, so today we think of a torpedo that's something that launches from underwater and reaches its target underwater. This, in fact, was a rocket-powered device that skimmed across the top of the water, delivering an incendiary to its target.
Did it work?
We have no actual record of them actually using it. We have modern speculations as to its shape and its function. Our job is to figure out just how viable a weapon of war it might have been.
While modern speculation abounds, the historical record is a little sketchy. Supposedly, this torpedo would travel over the water and explode on impact. But did it actually work? The MythBusters are going to find out.
So I have scoured every historical reference I can, and while there's not a ton of information, I think I know where we should start.
Go on.
All the accounts generally agree on the overall shape of this torpedo, that it is pear-shaped with a narrow end and a fat end, and it had two fins extending from the rear, and that it's powered by a black powder rocket of about 20 pounds of black powder. The question is, what does the underside look like? How it met the water? Nobody has a speculation about that. That's kind of up to us.
Well, why don't we go down in the shop and each take a stab at it and see what we get?
Exactly what I was thinking.
If you're thinking torpedoes, you're probably thinking about World War II versions that move along just under the surface of the water, where this one was specified to skip along top of the water like a small motorboat. So if you're thinking about motorboats, on the one hand, you could pick a deep V sort of a hull, which has the advantage of tracking straight and being able to handle choppy water. But on the other hand, it actually requires a lot of power to do that. You could pick a flat bottom sort of a hull, which moves along very quickly on the surface of the water, but if it goes too fast, it can get air under it and actually flip and lose control, which would be a bad thing.
Right, there are two possible hull choices, the deep V or the flat bottom. So to test which style works best, the guys begin by designing two torpedo prototypes out of pliable copper. And that means it's hammer time.
My tools of production, I'm using every sheet metal production tool I have ever purchased, from synthetic hammers, planishing hammers, motorized planishing hammers, anvils, beater bags, everything.
And I've got a cannonball.
Jamie is forging a flatter bottom torpedo, while Adam is hammering out the deep V. Two different hulls and two different prototypes are soon ready to take to the water in a head-to-head accuracy launch.
We'll see what happens. Well, that thing's looking pretty snappy.
I'm pretty psyched about it. Can't wait to try it. How's yours?
Well, it's not quite as pretty as yours is, but it ought to work.
Let's get them out there and try them.
Yeah.
All right.
And for that, the MythBusters have found the ideal location.
A lovely day to fire torpedoes.
Let's get to it.
I I'm standing at one of our favorite MythBusters locations on the island of Treasure Island in the middle of San Francisco Bay at a fire training facility. Now, we've filmed exploding stun gun and dumpster diving out here, but we have never used this pool behind me. We're going to use it today for testing some ancient torpedoes.
And they'll be aiming those torpedoes at a target 100 feet away. But to get them there, first, they'll need some thrust.
Our rocket power today will be supplied by this, which provides 5.9 pounds of thrust for 2.8 seconds. Will that translate to my torpedo making it from one end of our 100-foot pool to the target? Honestly, I don't think so, but that's okay, because this is a relative test. We're just trying to figure out the best hull shape at this point.
And first to launch is Adam's Deep V design.
It's just sinking into me what we're doing. Crazy. In 3, 2, 1. There it goes.
Look at that. That was lovely.
That was pretty neat.
Aside from curving a path straight into the wall, Adam's torpedo did make it 30 feet across the pool.
Well, I think my torpedo did pretty well. I think it still was showing a lot of resistance in the water, didn't quite get up on a plane, so I think I can actually take out a bunch of the weight in these fins and I might get an improved performance.
The torpedo was plowing through the water rather than hydroplaning, meaning it's slow and crooked. But will an attitude adjustment make the difference?
All right, here we go. It loves that spot in this pool.
Sadly, taking the extra weight out didn't help Adam's lethargic torpedo.
Seems to be holding up pretty well. Any suggestions?
You could strap 2 rockets onto that rocket mount, because I think you're just not getting up on top of the water. It may be that you just don't have enough power.
I'll give it a shot.
Adam's hull design is a little deeper and more rounded. That inherently requires more power to push it through the water. It may go just fine if we give it that power.
The idea is that more thrust will not only give more power, but also get the torpedo up on top of the water, allowing it to skim fast and true to its target.
Adam torpedo test 2 rockets in 3, 2, 1. And we are lit. That was awesome!
2 rockets did push the torpedo over 60 feet, but it seems the V-shaped hull is still plowing through the water, slowing it down and pulling it off course.
Yeah, that hull shape doesn't seem like it's working very well.
The fact that it's spraying so much water around says that it's wasting a lot of energy.
Yeah.
With the Deep V design shelved, it's sink or swim time for Jamie's flat-bottomed hull.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Ooh!
And sink is not the option Jamie was looking for.
The only problem I saw on this one was that it submarined. So I figure all I have to do is bend these tail fins with a slight downward pull to them, and that ought to hold the front end up.
Okay, now to see if this minute modification makes all the difference.
Yeah!
Where did it go?
It's just sitting right there about the halfway mark, a little bit more.
Amazingly, the torpedo skimmed the water, hydroplaning 70 feet straight along the pool, proving that a flat bottom is faster and more effective.
The slight adjustment to the rear fin seemed to do the trick, and I gotta say the flat bottom and long, narrow design allowed it to track pretty well over a great distance right on top of the water. I think we're looking pretty good.
Looking pretty good, but just to be sure, it's double or nothing.
This one's for the gold. There you go. Come on, baby.
Despite veering slightly off course, it's clear that the flat bottom is straight up the best design. And that's good news for the myth.
I think we have our design.
It goes pretty quick, doesn't it?
It's head and shoulders above the pear-shaped design. I think that's what we should go with.
Okay, let's get out of here.
So our next myth combines two things that don't normally go together: projectiles and wine.
Oh, you're talking about the exploding wine truck myth.
Correct. Supposedly, a semi filled with wine crashed on the freeway and caught fire.
Oh yeah, and the fire gets so hot that it causes the wine bottles to violently fire out their corks.
How violently? Like, were they lethal?
Well, we don't know because no one was ever hit. But here's the mythical part. Supposedly, the corks flew 100 feet, and when the bottles went off, they sounded just like machine gun fire.
There's no doubt this blazing bottle inferno actually happened. But were the reports of its demise greatly exaggerated? Did it really launch corks over 100 feet with a machine gun-like rattle?
Okay, the way I see it is we've got two directions we can go here. Either we just set a wine truck on fire and see what happens, or we can go to the shop and do some bottle testing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm a little hesitant to set a whole truck full of wine on fire unless we know what's going to happen. So why don't we start out with learning more about wine and the bottles and the corks, and then move on to our small scale.
Ooh, research.
Since this myth is about corks firing out of wine bottles like machine guns, we thought what better place to go than Domaine Carneros Winery to see what kind of circumstances might have caused this to happen. Was it the bottles? Was it the liquids inside the bottles? Or was it the heat applied to the bottles?
And to find the answers, Carrie's encountered an expert.
You've been making wine for 30 years. What do you think of the idea that if a wine truck caught on fire, that wine corks could start shooting out of it like a machine gun?
I believe it is conceivable. I know that when wine bottles get too warm, that sometimes the cork will push out a little tiny bit. I think that still wine bottles under extreme pressure of intense fire could shoot corks or could explode.
And pressure is the name of this game. As heat is applied, the wine starts to evaporate, which increases the pressure in the bottle until... But what else could affect the power of the projectile?
Is there a possibility that the shape of the bottle might have any sort of effect on the pressure?
I don't think so. The shapes of the bottles are determined by tradition and custom, but I think under extreme temperature, all bets could be off.
So bottle shape might be a factor. And on the champagne assembly line, Grant's found something that definitely is carbonation.
Sorry, it's my first day. Sorry, everybody.
With an internal pressure of 80 psi, adding heat to a champagne bottle may make it more likely to shoot for the moon.
So this machine is the corker. Now from this moment on, this bottle becomes a pressure vessel, potentially housing the kind of force that can cause a wine bottle to turn into a machine gun. And that is what this myth is all about.
So after a long day's research, what's the take home?
So after touring the winery and the bottling production facilities, we've come away with a few pieces of information. We know that heating the bottle could be a factor in building the internal pressure, and the same thing goes for agitating the bottle. But what we don't know is the magical combination of bottle shape and type of wine that'll cause our corks to go the fastest and the furthest. But that is what we're going to move on to next.
Okay, and back at the shop, Carrie begins by sizing up her opponent.
Now, winemakers actually use different shaped bottles for different wine. You can tell that you have a Riesling because it has slender shoulders. A Burgundy is a little bit fatter at the bottom. You have shoulders on a Bordeaux. So it's possible that the size of the bottle, the type of wine, or even the shape of the bottle might make a more explosive cork.
And to find out, the team is going to fire up a wine flambé
I'm making my Zen garden.
to see if any bottle can shoot its cork the mythical 100 feet. And here's how.
So for our bottle Olympics, we're gonna have a flame off. We're gonna put each different type of wine in this holder right here, turn up the flame, and compare the results. Now there are 3 pieces of data that we're after. Number 1, how long does it take to pop the cork? That's why we've got this timer right here. Number 2, how fast is the cork flying when it exits the bottle? That's why we've got this scale and our high-speed camera. And finally, how far does the cork fly once it pops? That's why we've got this scale that goes all the way down to the end.
And first up is a room temperature Bordeaux.
Here we go.
With the team safely behind the blast shields, now the waiting begins.
You know, this could be my favorite way to open up a bottle of wine.
Remember, the corks in the myth supposedly flew 100 feet.
Right now I call we are at 50 seconds.
But how far will the Bordeaux blow?
Oh, that was it?
I was either expecting glass go or a cork go, but it went.
Pip is right. After 2 minutes, with the temperature at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, the cork erupted at a feeble 3 miles per hour and barely made it to the sand.
After hearing this story, we got prepared with blast shields and eye protection and ear protection, and we got 2 feet of distance.
But being glass half full optimists, the guys reset with a twist.
So this bottle looks the same as the other one, and it is, but there's one big difference. It's been chilling for a while, since we don't know whether the wine was being refrigerated when it was being transported. I'm gonna throw this in and try it again.
But will the chill give a greater thrill?
I think I see it swelling.
Oh, yeah.
The cork
Yeah, it's starting to push out.
Okay. Nice.
Although still way short of the myth,
3 feet 4 inches.
the cold Bordeaux did fly 50% further than its warm counterpart.
Now, there are a few reasons why a cold bottle might actually be better for this myth than a warm one. To start out with, a cold bottle and a warm bottle both have the same pressure. But the more drastic change in temperature that a cold bottle experiences might mean a more drastic change in pressure.
So from here on in, they're sticking with cold bottles on high heat.
Next up, Burgundy. Chilled.
But neither the Burgundies
Hey, 5 feet 10 inches.
nor the Sauvignon Blancs
It got caught.
nor even the fortified quartz
That was pathetic.
That was adorable.
come anywhere near the mythical 100 feet.
Looks like size doesn't matter.
And that just leaves the final wine,
Long, slender bottle, high heat.
the Riesling.
30 seconds on the clock.
All is quiet until the temperature hits
200 degrees.
when suddenly,
Here we go. Whoa!
Wow.
Oh my gosh!
It went off the end of the scale.
That is incredible.
incredible is right. Maybe because of its pointed shape, the Riesling shoots its cork over 30 feet at 32 miles an hour. Still not far enough for the myth, but all is not lost.
What we have here is a wine bottle graveyard. Now, we have basically tested every different type still wine. We've tested a variety of shapes of bottles, and we have tested a variety of size of bottles. Still, we have not been able to get our corks to fly farther than 30 feet. So now it is time to address the elephant in the room. That is the champagne bottle.
Supposedly, the ancient Syrians created the world's first rocket-powered torpedo. But did it work? In the small-scale launch, Jamie's flat-bottomed prototype won on speed and accuracy. So now what?
I can't think of anything to do now but go full scale.
Yep.
So about that 20-pound black powder rocket, you think we need to build one?
Nah, those things are scary. I think we should use a modern rocket equivalent.
All right. Well, then I guess what's ahead is to build a few full-size torpedoes and find a body of water to test them on.
Sounds good.
And that means the guys are ramping up the scale for a full-blown torpedo attack.
The steel structure is my mold. I'm going to weld the sheet metal to it, and that'll hold it stable while I beat on it with a cannonball welded onto the end of a jackhammer.
I have no idea if it's going to work or not.
I don't either, but it is cool. Now, that may seem kind of elaborate, but it's not really unlike what would happen in ye olden days with Syrians and muscular slaves and so on, nicely rounded rock. Difference is that they would have taken days, and I'm going to do it in a couple of hours.
That looks great.
That may be the plan, but the cannonball has other ideas. With Jamie's jackhammer beaten, it's clear they'll have to find another way to hammer out this myth.
That was it?
So far, the MythBusters have popped the cork on still wine. But now it's time to unleash the big guns.
It's time to bring out the bubbly.
Already at a pressure of 80 psi, even without any heat,
All right, so this is the control test for the champagne.
the champagne's cork can fly 25 feet.
That's no heating, no agitation, just straight up.
So, will an Inferno beat that benchmark?
Bottle temps at 200.
This could be disastrous.
Could be pretty bad.
Or it could be awesome.
And will the pressure be enough to pop the cork and the wire cage clamping it in? Or will the bottle give way first?
All that pressure is building, and if that cage holds that cork in place, the bottle's gonna explode before the cork shoots out.
Raining down boiling, sparkling wine on all of us.
It's a sobering thought, so Tori gets an elaborate safety solution.
That'll keep us safe. It looks like it's gassing out. That's not good.
No, it's dripping. I can see it dripping down the side. I wonder if the cork caught on fire.
Which could be really dangerous.
I see steam.
It's a shattering result,
Now that's a party!
as the glass bursts first, meaning the cork hardly flew any distance at all. So for Champagne Test 2, the guys are dialing down the size of the flame.
Really strange having a job where you spend all day just doing things that your parents told you never to do.
Cork looks like it's pushing out. Here it goes.
Oh my God, it's happening.
It's about to pop.
It's happening.
I could not even see where it went.
Talk about a champagne moment. After 5 minutes of flame, the cork flies from the bottle at an astonishing 60 miles an hour. But gets lodged in the ceiling.
Finally, we are getting some results, and this is looking very good for the myth. With the champagne bottles, our corks are actually going so far, we are not able to measure them on our scale. They keep hitting the roof.
Having hit the champagne ceiling, they head outside, where there's no limit to how far they can pop their corks.
Lighten it up.
But will they get the 100 feet thereafter?
I see some dripping. I see dripping.
Well, not with Test 1.
Oh, what is that? Like
About 40 feet.
40 feet.
And not with Test 2.
6 minutes, the bottle exploded.
Test 3, with some extra agitation, does better.
Oh! Where'd it go? Out there.
50 feet.
But still not good enough. So what does this mean for the myth?
So far, we've tested dozens of bottles and gotten results that vary from Bordeaux's 2 feet to Champagne's 50 feet. But what all the results have in common is that none of them is even close to the mythical 100 feet that we need. But this is MythBusters. We're not just gonna stop here.
Turning torpedoes full scale, the MythBusters struck a problem. But it's okay, because Jamie Heineman has been on the case.
Dude, that is amazing!
I'd heard about this technique called hydroforming, where you use water pressure to form sheet metal shells, and I decided to give it a try. All you do is you take a couple of pieces of sheet metal and you weld them together, and then you pump high pressure water in between them, and it inflates like a balloon, at least in theory.
That's gross!
Whoops. This first attempt actually buckled severely, so it wasn't usable, but I figured if I weld it to a heavy steel frame that it might restrict the buckles, and it kind of did, but, well, it buckled the frame. At this point, I was getting really invested in this and determined to see it work. You want to see how I pulled it off? Okay.
Yep, with his extracurricular determination, Jamie has come up with an ingenious Plan B.
We take our piece of sheet metal and clamp it between two massive plates of steel. We've cut out an almond-shaped hole in the top plate and attached our pressure washer pump to a small hole in the bottom plate. Now here's the fun part. All we do is start the pump, and the water pressure pushes the sheet metal out the almond-shaped hole. inflating it just like a balloon. Ha! It's perfect. It's a long way from medieval blacksmithing, but I can make a torpedo shell in about a half an hour. It's like magic. Beats beating on it with a hammer.
With the shell production line in full swing, Jamie assembles them into torpedoes. Each set of shells is given a rocket casing and some foam flotation to ensure they don't sink to the bottom of the lake while testing. And finally, a set of laser precision control fins to keep them in line.
That was a lot of work.
Man, they look fantastic. I think our torpedo army is ready for deployment.
Time for a road trip?
It is.
And Ione Quarry, where the MythBusters have slid, flipped, and blasted myths before,
Oh, yeah.
is the perfect location for deployment.
Shall we get started?
Yeah, why not?
Let it drift.
First up, to create a familiar target,
Do you want to save your own city?
at 800 feet from shore, the boat is positioned well out of reach of an ancient archer. But will it be within reach of their torpedo?
Well, there we go. Was nice and pretty, now it's really ugly. You may remember earlier that we do best with a flat-bottomed hull on our torpedo, and this is actually kind of rounded. But I figure it's okay because of the way that I've placed the rocket motor back here, and this forms kind of a straight or flat line, which is what I'm looking for, because when this gets up and running, this is all that's going to be actually contacting the water, and that's what's important. That's what's going to allow it to move real quick and real efficiently.
Quick and efficiently, because to test its success as an ancient weapon, they're zeroing in on two crucial criteria: its accuracy and its ability to deliver its deadly payload. And to test those, they'll need some rocket power.
In the sparse details we've been able to uncover about this story, the torpedo is said to be powered by a rocket composed of 20 pounds of black powder. What does that equal in a modern-day repeatable equivalent? Well, it turns out to be this puppy. This is an M motor. It puts out 270 pounds of thrust for approximately 14 seconds, and it will be our ye olde rocket engine. When we're walking it forward, don't you feel like we should make some sound effects?
Boom.
With the ye olde rocket equivalent on board, test one is about accuracy, getting their torpedo to hit its mark.
All right, that's hot. Let's do it.
Let's see what it does.
And even though there are not yet incendiaries on board, the guys take cover behind the blast shields.
All right, man, count it down.
Okay, here we go with the full power rocket in 3, 2, 1, go. Well,
I don't know, maybe that was a little too powerful. What do you think?
it was fun though. Let's do it again.
Okay, so the world's first launch of an ancient torpedo didn't go quite as planned. Instead of hydroplaning, it went off like a rocket.
Everything started out okay, and then everything seemed to go haywire. It spiraled up into the sky and did this massive belly flop, absolutely crushing the top of this. Wow, that is a lot of damage. This is like a car accident's worth of damage. It bent the entire central shaft of this thing on an arc. It's fantastic.
Fantastic, but nowhere near accurate. So for test two, they'll reduce the speed and cut its thrust.
Now I know when you think of Goldilocks, you don't automatically go to an anodized aluminum tube filled with explosives, but that's what's just happened. Welcome to the Goldilocks rocket. This nozzle's been drilled out to 5/8 of an inch, which should lower its pressure rating to between 150 and 180 pounds of thrust, which should be the butter zone that'll get our torpedo all the way to the boat while staying in the water.
Now this is rocket science, but that's still the equivalent of the mythical 20 pounds of black powder, just with a longer burn time.
Let's get her down to the water. She's hungry for some boat, aren't you, girl? I don't know why I personify the rockets like that.
Question is, will reducing its speed help their torpedo stay waterbound and stay on target?
This is the Goldilocks torpedo in 3, 2, 1, fire.
Despite its promising start, frustratingly, the torpedo still took flight.
Still a little too much power, but really nice.
I think that's fun by itself. Why do we need to hit the boat?
Damn, that one just wouldn't quit.
It was like a porpoise.
Yeah.
It kept going up and then down underwater and up.
And although the torpedo's aerobatics are certainly entertaining, annoyingly for our MythBusters, it's a long way off the direct hit of the myth.
It's not working too well. We're going to have to figure something else out.
Yeah, well, let's get on it.
Okay.
It's no myth that this semi became a blazing vino inferno. But did its cargo really explode as per the reports?
Okay, so there's two parts to this myth: the distance the corks flew and the machine gun firing effect.
Well, as far as the distance goes, it's looking a little dodgy. I mean, even our best performer, the Champagne, chilled and agitated, only went 50 feet, half the required distance.
All right, well, that just leaves the machine gun fire effect. I think it's time we take this myth full scale.
I totally agree. Let's fill a semi-truck full of wine, both our winning still, which was the Riesling, and a ton of champagne, and see if we can get a machine gun fire.
To the bomb range.
Yep, there's only one destination for this bottle barbecue. And it's BYO semi-trailer.
It's actually in pretty good condition.
Let's burn it.
And with the truck in position, prepped, and the firewood stacked,
Nice job, MythBusters.
now to stock it with some bottom-of-the-line wine.
So we have our truck. Now we're gonna fill it with almost 1,000 bottles of champagne, which is our obvious clear winner from our bottle experiments. We got 60 miles an hour and 50 feet from those corks. Just for good measure, we're gonna throw in a few bottles of our still winner as well, which is the long, skinny bottle.
And based on their shop tests, they are making sure the bottles stay cool.
So we brought in our champagne from a chilled truck and transferred it to this one that we're gonna burn. This is gonna keep it cold until we're ready to start the fire.
It's a meticulous operation, but not everyone's impressed.
On the record, I'm just going to say, on behalf of me and all the other bomb techs around the United States and the world, I'm totally against this burning of wine and champagne.
I'm with you on that one, JD. This is nothing but a travesty.
All right, here we go. We're lighting up.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
That's beautiful. So we filled the truck up with our wine. We've just lit it on fire. This fire is burning hot, but do I think we're gonna get the machine gun effect that we hear about in this myth? I have a hard time believing that.
Tori's not convinced, and after 5 minutes, the simmering semi is still relatively quiet.
Oh,
Here we go.
yeah.
Heard him.
I mean, it's not like a machine gun you would imagine. It's more,
Not yet. Hold your horses. Experiment's not over yet.
Carrie's right, because in their earlier tests, it sometimes took 8 minutes for the champagne to fire.
8.5 minutes.
Oh, man.
And as the saying goes, good things come to those who wait.
Hey! Oh, my goodness.
It's like firecrackers.
Yeah.
Really expensive firecrackers. This is better than the 4th of July.
In fact, once the gunfire sounds start, there's no stopping them.
Wow, you see shrapnel flying out here?
Yeah.
As hundreds and hundreds of bottles either pop their corks or explode in the fire.
I can't believe how well this is working. After we set the trailer on fire, those bottles started popping just like a machine gun. It sounds like 4th of July.
I gotta tell you one thing. If I were a fireman and I heard what sounded like automatic machine gun fire coming out of that thing, I wouldn't be approaching it.
Absolutely, because with corks flying 50 feet and glass shrapnel even further, this is a wine tasting to steer clear of. But with the semi reduced to ashes, is the myth in any better shape?
Look, there's one right there.
Wow!
What distance is that?
That's easily 50 feet.
You know what? It sounded like a machine gun.
Yeah, but the myth's at 100 feet. That's not even near it. So I'm thinking this is busted overall.
Yeah, I say busted.
All right, busted. But what if we harness the power inside these bottles?
Like what?
I don't know, make it directional? Make some kind of a gun?
A machine gun?
Maybe.
Are we gonna MythBuster this up?
Yeah.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, that's an ancient torpedo, and it's not supposed to be airborne.
So our rockets turn out to be quite powerful, and when they cause our torpedo to take off into the sky, that actually has a term in rocketry. It's called skywriting. We don't want to be skywriting, so we are going to add actually a tether, a guide wire under the water that will hopefully guide our torpedo right to the boat.
The skywriting is on the wall. Accurately hitting the solo boat is proving more difficult than the more likely target of a 13th century invading armada. So for test 3, accuracy is out of the picture, and they're jumping ship to test the payload delivery.
All right, ladies and germs, we're ready to head across the lake. Oh, crap. Uh-oh. All right, let's go.
With the taut tether ready to keep it in line,
That's a lot of tension. Oh, that's pretty good.
torpedo number 3 is loaded with the rocket equivalent of 20 pounds of black powder and its deadly payload.
These are my incendiary devices. They're actually filled with gasoline and a couple of other things that make it a secret recipe. That right there, 10.5 pounds of death and destruction to be delivered as soon as possible to our enemies.
Death and destruction, as long as it explodes on impact.
For this to be a successful test, we've got to be able to launch our torpedo from shore, have it skim across the surface of the water, and crash into our target boat, splashing incendiary liquid all over it and creating a big fireball. That's what we've got to do.
Yep, accuracy is beside the point. This test is about whether the torpedo delivers its destructive payload.
Tethered Goldilocks, let's hope this one works. In 3, 2, 1, fire.
Oh, shoot.
We were doing better without it tethered.
I'm sad.
Rockets don't like to be tethered. No. Nor torpedoes. They just want to be free.
Free-range torpedoes.
In contrast to yesterday's test, the Tethered definitely kept the torpedo waterbound, although a little too much so. But that's a problem they think they can fix.
In the interest of trying everything we can think of, we have moved the boat from its original position of 800 feet from shore to 200 feet from shore, and we've moved the guide wire from underwater to above water. I really hope this works.
Remember, the historical record isn't clear as to whether this was a long or short-range weapon, so they're closing in to concentrate on payload delivery.
There we go.
It's now or never for their torpedo of doom.
Okay, incendiary torpedo in 3, 2, 1, fire.
Come on! Wow. That didn't go at all like I expected.
So close, but so far.
Maybe we should just go home.
No! We have to hurt this boat! Darn it!
Everything was going to plan, but the tether snapped, turning the torpedo into a surface-to-air missile. and getting the MythBusters all bent out of shape.
I'm a sad monkey right now. That's our enemy. Look how close he is to shore. We've got rockets, we've got incendiary. Somehow we can't stop him. Just bugging the hell out of me.
Yep, it seems the torpedo is less death and destruction and more like a weapon of mass frustration. And with only one remaining torpedo, they've only got one more shot at the myth.
Captain Kirk never said this to Scotty, but I think we've got too much power.
And that tether is not working for us. I think we got to remove it.
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't know you watched Star Trek.
Sure.
We set a full-size trailer filled with sparkling wine and still wine on fire. And we got a machine gun type effect. But we didn't get the mythical 100 feet. So this one is busted. But we're not gonna stop there. This is MythBusters. So the next step for us is to go with the spirit of the myth and replicate the results. And that means making our own wine bottle machine gun.
And back at the shop, that's exactly what the MythBusters are gunning for.
So after all of our testing, we've decided to try to replicate the result and give that machine gun effect the myth talks about by harnessing the power of the wine bottle.
We basically just cut up a bunch of pipes, put it on some bearings, made it look like a Gatling gun, and we're gonna use propane as a heat source.
This is it, the ultimate MythBusters wine machine gun. We're using chilled champagne bottles, shaken and set over an open flame. Now it's time to fire this thing.
It's certainly a red-hot piece of hardware that only needs a target. And that's where Grant comes in.
There'll be potentially shattering glass, boiling liquid. So I have this. It's a fire suit. Hopefully, it's gonna keep me safe.
Let's do this.
With Grant quite literally staring down the barrel,
Here come the pain!
it's go time.
I forgot to protect my nether regions.
As machine guns go, it's a low-key start, as the team has to wait 10 minutes for the wine to reach optimum pressure. But then,
Ah! Got him in the leg! Right in the ding-ding!
I don't know about dangerous, but it's hilarious.
Oh!
They're actually hitting with some force. Right in the gut.
it's a sparkling MythBusters moment.
Oh, yeah!
But with reloading too dangerous, the conclusion is inevitable.
Is that it?
All right, I think that's it.
We got the wine bottles to act like a machine gun, and we got the corks to go in the direction we wanted it. Now, I feel a little bad for Grant.
Oh, yeah!
But I think he would agree it was worth it, at least for science.
The MythBusters are at the end of their tether. Frustratingly, their ancient torpedoes have missed the boat on accuracy and payload delivery. But they've had a eureka moment. Perhaps it's all down to too much rocket power.
Well, sometimes less is more, and I think this is one of those times. We're going to lose the tether, and we're going to go with a rocket motor that puts out about half the thrust of the ones that we've been using heretofore. Hopefully, that'll allow our torpedo to stay as a boat and not a rocket and go crazy.
Yep, this is their last torpedo and their last chance to get accuracy and payload delivery all in one. If having the thrust doesn't get a direct hit, then this myth is totally and utterly sunk. But in case it does, Adam's given the boat an ancient overhaul.
Why the hell are you putting all that crap all over the boat? It's just gonna catch on fire. I don't want to burn this boat down. I mean, I know we need a finale, but Maybe we could save it somehow.
It's an important addition to make our boat just as flammable as its 13th century equivalent.
Now, for those of you playing at home and complaining that the enemies of 13th century Syrians were much more likely to be Mongols than Romans from 1300 years earlier, I say congratulations on knowing so much about history.
With the boat fully prepped and the torpedo armed to the teeth, it takes its slow walk to the shore.
Don't drop it.
I will not.
But will it have the bite of the myth?
This part, when the explosives are live, is not the fun part of this job.
No.
The tension mounts as their final torpedo is ready for launch.
It's live.
Good.
Then the guys retreat behind the shields, and it's sink or swim time.
It's now or never.
Incendiary torpedo in 3, 2, 1, fire.
And a misfire.
It's a dangerous moment. With the explosives live, our MythBusters carefully tweak the trigger and take cover once again for the countdown to launch.
Third time's a charm. I just wish it had worked on the third time.
Incendiary torpedo in 3, 2, 1, fire.
This is starting to get me upset. There it goes! Come on, baby, come on! Hit it! Just boom!
Yep, that certainly was chest bump worthy. Not only did the torpedo stay on the surface of the water, but it delivered its deadly payload.
That sent fire up over the bow of the boat. That was awesome.
Holy crapola! Oh, there's a fire. Luckily, I've got a 13th century fire extinguisher. I have saved your boat.
Yeah, that was a perfect hit. And, you know, you could have used explosives, you could have incendiaries, anything you want. If it hit that hull like that. You know,
I'd be telling my other boats to turn around if one of those hit me. That's what I'd be saying. Turn around! Get the hell out of here. These people are crazy. That last launch was what we've been looking for all week. The engine caught fire, started to push the torpedo. It skipped beautifully on the surface, maybe veering about a foot or two to the right, and slammed into the side of the boat, embedding itself, releasing its incendiary, and catching it all on fire at the same moment, and setting the boat on fire. Pretty much every last thing in one launch. I still can't believe it. I'm pinching myself. Well, how do you want to call this one? Was the Syrians' mythical surface rocket-powered incendiary-delivering torpedo been an effective weapon of war?
Indeed it was, based on this test. We have to call it plausible, don't we?
Absolutely. Barring a time machine, it's plausible. Let's get out of here.